Thanks for staying with us. Starting May 1, 2025, that is today, where Nigerians are celebrating Workers' Day, Nigerian bank customers will pay 6 naira per SMS transaction alert, a 50% increase from the previous 4 naira rate. This adjustment follows higher telecom service charges recently approved by the federal government. Several banks, including Guaranty Trust Bank Limited, have informed customers of the change. In a notice to customers, the GTB explained that the fee is due to increased charges from telecom providers. The bank highlighted the importance of SMS alerts for account monitoring and noted additional charges for messages sent to international phone numbers. The fee increase comes amid growing concerns about the rising cost of living and digital access to or in Nigeria. The adjustment is expected to impact millions of customers who rely on SMS alerts for banking transactions. Our guest this morning is a financial expert, Mr. Gbolahan Olojede. Good morning and welcome to the program, Mr. Olojede.
Yeah, good morning. Nice to be on the program.
At this point, it seems like Nigerians are being stabbed left, right, and center. Now, SMS alert is 6 naira, no matter how small it is. A lot of people are not comfortable with it. But I'd like you to comment on this development.
Well, there was no way we could have avoided it. Telecom service is not a government service. It's a private sector service. So the only reason they were seeking government approval to increase their own price was because it's a regulated sector. It's a very critical sector to the economy, and the government regulates it. Otherwise, as other costs were rising in the economy, they would also have increased their own cost. As a matter of fact, when they were trying to lobby for this increase in cost, they were asking for 100% increase. It was courtesy of the regulator that said, no, considering everything that is going on, you cannot have 100% increase at this time. You have to just manage with 50%. So it has been implemented in some of the services. So I guess it is now time to also move it to the banking services side of things. So it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. It is part of the rising cost, situation. Part of the argument, if you remember, when they were trying to lobby for this increase, was to say, look, the government has not approved a tariff increase for them in maybe about 12 years or thereabout. But we don't even have to go all the way to 12 years, but to say, what are the cost rises that has happened between 2023 and now? And we'll begin to appreciate the reason why the telcos might also want to increase their own price. In 2023, we know how much dollar was. Today, we also know how much dollar is. Incidentally, for a sector like them, the equipment, literally all the things that are necessary to deliver on their own message, on their own mandates, are all imported. There's no telecom equipment manufacturer in Nigeria. So if the cost of providing their own service, which is closely related to dollar, and dollar has moved from 400 to 1,500, it will be expected that there will be this adjustment. It's unfortunate, but I don't think there is a way to have avoided it. Unless if government's NITEL has remained in business, maybe government could have absorbed it and say, okay, for those of you on NITEL, I will not increase my own. I will keep it as it is, as a subsidy to the people.
Yeah, well, subsidy is not a word that Nigerian government likes nowadays. What they like is palliative, and that's unfortunate. Yeah, but when it comes to this, like I said earlier, so many people might say this is a very small thing. Moving from 4 naira to 6 naira is a very small thing, but a lot of people are uncomfortable about this. But so, how do you think this will impact the banking sector, the financial sector, and especially as the Central Bank of Nigeria or the Ministry of Finance is trying to mop up the money from the society and make sure that we go digital in our banking services?
Well, I don't think it will affect the banking sector that much. people who are used to uh, for whom it is very critical that they receive SMS alert. For example, if I do a business such that people are making payments into my account from all over, and I need to be able to see those payments to release my goods, I may not have an option. Rather, what may happen is I may want to pass on that cost. But how much the additional 2 naira is going to be submerged in the bigger picture, of course, the nature of the cost rise that we have seen in recent times. Most of the people at the lowest rung of the ladder do not have so many alerts coming into their account on a daily basis. So the weight might not be much on that segment. But for people who have high frequency of transactions going on in their account, debit is coming in, credit is going on, especially for people in the retail space, those are the people who might actually feel it more than the general populace. But the most people who don't have more than 1 or 2 transactions happening in their account every day, that's an additional 4 naira or something, in their account, and it won't move the needle. That's the reality. Yeah, but for the telcos who are going to be the beneficiary, it is a lot for them, because by the time you aggregate to 2 naira for all the banking transactions that happen in a day in Nigeria, it starts to account for something for them. So it's significant to them, but for the individual payers, it won't move the needle that much.
Yeah, so somebody who is, let me use the word that may not even be related, but someone who is addicted to digital banking and transactions and all that may want to continue and say maybe it's not significant. But this is an era where we want to encourage people that are not already in the banking net to come into it. How do we explain this to them? Because for them, no matter how small it is, no matter how small the charges might be, SMS alert, you do this, card maintenance, you do this, some other reasons to take your money and all that, it's difficult to convince these people that banking is the way to go. Digital banking is the way to go. So people will continue to keep their money in their pillows. So how do we address this? Do we say those people who are already there, let them be there? Those who are not there, let them continue to be outside the banking sector?
Maybe
yeah.
Maybe a way to address it is to make it optional. Yeah, if it is optional, then people can say, I don't want it, so I don't have to pay for it since I don't want it. That could be an easy way to address it. We lived in this country when there was nothing like SMS alert, and people don't get it. So the new people that we want to bring into the banking system might have to think in terms of those pre-SMS alert period. Because there was so many, when did SMS alert came into the system? Maybe 20 years ago. Banking is a very old art or service that have been there probably for 500 years or something. So if it is made optional, then, I don't want this 2 naira, then you don't get the 2 naira. It only means that you also don't have the privilege of keeping a tab in real time on what is going on in your account. But then we did not used to keep tab on what is going on in our account for several years of banking, and we survived. So that's the only way I see. Otherwise, we cannot ask a service provider whose cost has gone up not to want to increase tariff or keep business alive, because that is what the telcos are saying, and we saw it in the crazy losses in that segment in 2023. It was, in fact, entire capital of the number one telco provider was totally wiped out. The equity became negative in that period. And he's saying, look, if I'm going to survive, I need to increase tariff. And we want it to survive. So I guess that must have been why a compromise was reached to at least allow a 50% tariff increase. It is general, as it is affecting the rest of us who have to pay, so was not paying, affecting those businesses. So it's a network of issues that we just have to balance it properly. So giving a choice to people to choose whether they want alert or not. For example, there was a time when I believe there was a choice. So you can say, I don't want the alert. I only want the email. The email was free. Alert came with charges. But I'm not so sure if alert is now is optional. It appears as if it has become a permanent thing for which we all have to pay.
Okay, now it brings us to the role of the government. Government is a regulator, and there's only so much you can say to a company that you're regulating that you are not helping in any way. Don't you think some interventions could have been made by governments to these people so that when the tariffs seem to be crazy, they too can have a say in whatever is being charged? For instance, right now, one of the telecom providers is struggling. One of them is struggling. Let me just leave it at that. And the government doesn't seem to have any plan for intervention in that space. So if they struggle, get the money from wherever they will get back to their feet and continue business, and they decide to do anything with that, the government will not have the moral standing to say, you know what, you can't do this to our people. So do you think the intervention of government in this space is enough, or we should just leave them to be regulators without intervening to help when the need arises?
Government has to be very careful about intervening in the private sector financial issues, except it has reached a level where government believes that the sector might collapse, and the collapse will have a very serious effect on the economy. That is when only when government comes in. But if there are multiple players and one seems to be having an extreme level of challenge, the government will need to now consider this particular player that is having these challenges. Is it of systemic importance to the system? If we remove it today, will the system pack up? Those are the questions government wants. If it determines that it is not of systemic importance, then it will not intervene. The level of intervention, however, which is general and compulsory for government, is to continue to improve the business environment. And it is not just for a sector, but for all businesses. So listening to association, the Manufacturers Association, the Telcos Association, the Bankers Committee, understanding what the issues that are militating against the progress of businesses are, and designing policies that will support them is the right level of intervention for government. But the direct intervention in specific private sector players at the financial level is something that government must refrain from, except in those extreme cases where a systemic importance has been established.
I would have loved to go back into that, but let's leave that now. Now we have reached this point, and people are going to be charged. And so many things are tied to the reason why these SMSs will now be costing more. Now that means that in a different way, the government has a role to play to make these conditions that made them to do this to no longer be there. What are some of these things that the government needs to act fast to put in place? Because even if, whether they like it or not, what their policies are affecting everything in the country. So telecoms are raising these, people are also raising prices in whatever services or goods they are selling. So what are those things that are really, really urgent? Whether they want to listen to it or not, but let it be said that we made an effort.
Okay, one of the things, because I work in an environment where what we eat for breakfast is financial result of companies. So I've had the privilege of reviewing 2023 financial statements of businesses, 2024, and all the result that has been released so far in 2025 Q1. Something has happened between 2023 to 2024 and now 2025. It is that there is now an element of recovery, corporate recovery is starting to happen. So all the businesses that bled very badly in 2023 made massive losses. When you look at their 2024 numbers, you will see recovery. Some of them have turned into profit. By the time you come into 2025, the profitability seems to have been growing and have been sustained over that short period. No, so the question, one of the critical questions that the government must be asking itself is, how do we sustain this? Because if it is sustained, it will eventually dovetail into, there will be a pass-through effect on the economy generally. When businesses are making losses, government loses because it doesn't receive taxes. Some of the businesses will even entirely pack up and go to where they came from, or everybody would dissolve. The investors loses because they don't get, the investors will lose because they don't get dividend. So it is loss for everybody when those businesses are making losses. Now they are coming back into profit. We need to be able to nurture those benefits to ensure that it will be sustained. So government must be asking itself about the fragile nature of the economy. What do we need to do to ensure that those, for example, one of the things that has helped these businesses is the relative stability of the exchange rate from half year last year. So what do we need to do to ensure that we don't go back to that period before then when there was an extreme volatility in exchange rate? So government must look in that direction. Government must begin to ask itself, now that oil price is behaving in a way that we don't love, there has been diminution in the price of oil, and if this diminution becomes significant, it will affect a country like Nigeria, where oil remains a huge source of foreign exchange earnings. If the supply of foreign exchange earnings get affected, it will affect the pressure on the naira and it will affect exchange rate. If exchange rate volatility comes back, the gains that we are beginning to see, which we need to sustain and grow, may be wiped out. So government must be looking in that space and saying, what can we do to ensure that the recoveries we begin to see can be sustained and even translated into further growth, which will have a pass-through effect into the economy as generally. Those are some of the things that government must be looking at critically right now. The recovery we're beginning to see is very fragile. So what are those elements of the fragility? I've mentioned foreign exchange issue surrounding our own refined product, for example, which should be a plus for us. By the way, there was a very sad news yesterday about the water refinery revamp having flopped. It's a sad one. But how do we begin to support the private sector people that are in that space to be able to help create export to drive income, foreign exchange income for this country?
Mr. Olojede, I quite agree with you that the government should think about sustaining this. I would have loved for you to talk about the fact that as the government or as the companies are posting profits, making so much money. In fact, the banks are some of the companies that are posting the most profits nowadays and telling us how they have recovered and all that. But to whose detriment is that? Because companies are recovering, the people are not. There are more people coming into the poverty line and all that. So while they're trying to sustain the companies making so much profit, what can be done to make sure that the people also begin to have a new lease of life? Because as the companies are posting profits, that's how the suffering of the people also is being heightened and all that. But this is not what I want you to answer. Maybe that's a matter for another day because our time is running out. But I want you to answer, to say something about something that is not related to what we are saying now. As a financial expert, there is a news headline this morning. This news headline was a headline a few weeks ago, and a lot of Nigerians were crying. CBEX, if you heard the news. CBEX resumes operations despite SEC ban and 1.2 trillion naira EFCC probe. These are the people that have been termed the Ponzi scheme. They crashed, people cried, their money was trapped there. Now they have resumed operations, even when the government is talking about banning them or has banned them, and EFCC is probing them. Just talk to Nigerians as a financial expert, because a lot of people will want to go back into that thing. Is it safe? Is it not safe? Just a word of advice before we wrap up.
I would like to read the news that says they are back in business or back in business in Nigeria. The nature of what they were doing, from the little I read, had to do with investment. If you are going to do investments in Nigeria, you must be SEC registered. If they are not SEC registered and they are back in business to what? Even if they are back in business, it should be obvious that no sane person, except it is only mad people, that will invest in it. If an organization is said to have taken off with 1.3 trillion, and then an individual investor says, okay, they are back on the street, let me go and put my own money there. That person might need to see a doctor. That is the reality. So the news about them coming back to operations in Nigeria is something I would love to read before I can make comments about that. Okay. Ponzi scheme will always remain around because it plays on the greed of people. It is greed that makes people believe that I can give somebody 100 naira and it will turn into 200 naira in 1 month. That is pure greed, nothing more. And it's not just about the poor. The rich people have their money there. So that is not poverty that makes people greedy. We have to separate those two. There are rich people that get caught up in money doubling. You go and put, there are people who are said to put 300 million in CBEX. They are not poor people. They just want 300 million to become 600 million in 1 month. So that is greed. And it is global. I don't know if you remember Madoff in America. You know, that was a highly placed people who collected money from so many highly placed people in America on the, you know, fantastic return. At the end of the day, the whole thing collapsed and he even had to commit suicide so many years ago. So the regulators owe an obligation of better level of vigilance for institutions like CBEX. And more than that, there has to be more citizens' education in respect of investment. If they can double money, they will not come to you. They will go and gather all the money that they can and double it for themselves. So there has to be citizens' education about the nature of investment. Regulators have to be involved. Religious leaders have to be involved. Unfortunately, some religious people are said to even be part of the encouragement of people to put money in those scams. Other levels of leadership, including even companies, have to be involved in educating their people that nobody can double your money in 1 month. You must ask the fundamental question: what are you investing this money in?
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I needed that one to come out. Nigerians, you've been warned. MMM came and we cried. All other Ponzi schemes have come and we've been crying. CBEX came, we also still went in, and then we were crying. Do not say you have not been warned. Mr. Olojede, thank you so much for your time this morning. As always, it's a pleasure having had you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
We were talking to Mr. Gbolahan Olojede, a financial expert, and we were looking at the fact that SMS alerts from banks will now be charged 6 naira as against the 4 naira that it used to be before now. We'll take a short break. When we return, Army promises stronger fight against insurgents is our next topic. Stay with us.